Flea grabs the old dog's tail, twisting it into a staircase. Then he leaps in bounds into the old dog's body. He travels through millions of hairs. He finally chooses the thickest hair as his habitat. At this point, the old dog feels an itch. He keeps scratching with his paws. The sleeping flea is awakened by the shock. Angry, he stomped on the dog's body. The dog is shaken and panicked. The tremors reach the top of his head. Every time the dog tries the same thing, he feels the same thing. There was nothing he could do but go back to sleep. But soon, a fat dog who had just returned from a hunt found the little pillow in his kennel that had inexplicably disappeared. He followed the scent and found the place. Confronted by the old dog who had stolen his pillow, he sends him flying with a kick. He returns to his kennel with the little pillow in his mouth. But fleas are not to be trifled with. Seeing how his host had been treated, he leaps and bounds after him. After confirming the big fat dog's position, he jumps up on the fence and smashes through a wall. He took out the bricks inside, and using his strong body to carry the concrete bricks, he jumped onto the roof of the big fat dog's house and smashed it. The bones in the big fat dog's mouth were knocked out of his mouth more than 20 meters away. He was also knocked unconscious. After the success of the plan, the flea pulls up the small pillow and the bone and gives it to his host. He got into the dog's fur himself, preparing for a restful night's sleep. But the big, fat dog who'd been knocked unconscious thought it was all the old dog's doing. He then picked up the bricks and came here. Faced with the big fat dog's expression and his movements, the old dog was so frightened that he cowered into a ball. But then the flea came out of the dog's fur again. He jumped up behind the big fat dog. He grabs him by the tail and pulls him back. Faced with an uncontrollable body, the majesty of the dog's face disappears. The dog was pulled into a hole less than a centimeter in diameter. Recovering, the dog barks furiously and seeks revenge. But halfway there, he was knocked out with a sledgehammer by a flea. He also wanted to see who it was, but what he didn't expect was a Hercules flea. The flea picked up the hammer and kept hitting it. The big fat dog was so scared that he gnashed his teeth, and then the hammer was aimed at his bottom. At this point, the big fat dog wanted to run away, but the flea didn't want to let him go. After a good beating, the flea was satisfied and ran back to his host. Since he couldn't beat the flea, so he took it out on the old dog. The big fat dog carries the sleeping old dog to the fence wall. The dog catcher outside the door aimed a net at him. As his host is about to be taken away, the flea picks up the wooden board and slapped it down on the dog catcher's bottom. By doing so, he managed to draw the dog catcher's attention to the big fat dog who was laughing. The perpetrator of this farce ended up having his own way. He had to be dragged off to the slaughter, and the old dog finally gets a good night's sleep. The fleas inside have been given a hammock and a TV for the long haul.